What's going on?
How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Well, relatively speaking, of course.
Are you enjoying your global pandemic experience?
Honestly, the quarantine is not a problem for us. We're good at this, so we can handle it. How about you?
Yeah, you just live in that little box anyway, don't you?
Pretty much. Yeah. This is my existence.
What a nice way to say you're lazy assholes. But yeah, just live in this box.
I'm I could of course have done without this whole thing.
Sure.
I don't know anybody who's like psyched about it. It'd be weird to find that human being.
Yeah.
It feels like they're like, I feel alive for the first time in this global pandemic.
Hey, nice to meet you. I'm
John.
Oh yeah, is that pretty well? In a weird way, like I've spent so much time of my life on location, just like in remote spots, with absolutely nothing to do, and where like I'm in wherever part of the world for 4 months. I'm only shooting though like 1 day a week, so the rest of the time I'm just kind of puttering around, figuring everything out. So I'm like, why does this all feel familiar to me? I'm like, oh, it's like I'm on location.
Just doing it in your own meeting room.
What's the on location like? I remember reading an article interview with her name's escaping now, Princess Leia.
Carrie Fisher,
where she talked about how she used to go to on location shoots, even though she wasn't even in those scenes anymore, and she would go just to party. It's not like that anymore, I imagine.
Well, that's more about the life of a drug addict than the life of an actor or anybody else.
Yeah, it wasn't
Gary style. Yeah,
that's more about where the party at, where the Bacardi at.
Well, we thank you for coming back, Hank Azaria, back on KFC Radio, promoting the final season of Brockmire. What a ride it has been. We have been on this show since day one, and to see it grow and change, and now to see it all wrapping up, what a pretty cool experience, huh?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, you guys have been very excellent friends of the show, so thank you.
It's easy. It's easy to be friends with. Like, it's not like the show is a terrible person who you stay friends with through thick and thin. You're always there for. It's a great friend to have.
Well, thank you. But the show, the only if there's a downside to this experience for me, which there really hasn't been, it's that just not enough people saw it. It's just been we're like a cult hit, which means you're a great show that nobody watches.
It's the cult term is a polite way to to a good spin zone, but
nobody watches the show. But that's more. Go, please. I beg your audience, because most of them probably haven't seen it. Go on Hulu. You can see seasons.
Well, so that's the thing. I was going to ask you if you've seen a change or a bump at all in the Hulu after release on Hulu, because I know that happens with Netflix a lot too. It's like some people think it's new and that it's happening for the first time, and I feel like you get some new eyeballs. Has there been any change?
I haven't gotten those numbers yet. I don't know, but that's what we're kind of hoping for. And this is if there's a silver lining of this pandemic for me, is that more people are home. Maybe they'll have nothing to do. Maybe they'll watch Brockmire now.
Yeah, I mean,
if you please, folks who haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, just watch the first 5 minutes of episode 1, season 1. If you don't laugh out loud, you can stop watching.
Yeah,
they're only 8 per season. They're all 22 minutes long. That's like one COVID afternoon. Come on, now.
You really can do. You can do a season in an evening, and that I would argue. Trying to think like off the top of my head if there's anything that even compares. That first scene of that first episode of that first season is probably the best, like, gotcha and like you're hooked that I've ever seen on any television show ever. It's crazy.
Yeah, I say with great humility that we did a good one there. So check it out. If nothing, just you must be curious at this point. Check it out, and if you like it, tell your friends. But
I was actually watching episode 5 this morning, and my girlfriend asked what I was doing. I told her. She said, "Oh, I never heard of that." And I just sent her the opening scene, and she's like, "Okay, I'm watching now." So she's been binging. She's probably still binging as we speak right now. If you watch those first 5 minutes, I think the YouTube clip I sent was 2 minutes, but however long the opening scene is, if you watch that, you will not turn the show off.
And you know what? And if you're not into it, like, fine, you don't have to watch it. Also, it's bad for you because you must be the most boring person alive with no sense of humor. So
it's almost universal how much people laugh at the show and then also get really into the story of the show.
Well, this season particularly, And I don't think we really spoke during season 3, which, had big time stars and the plots, seriously advanced. But this season being set in the future, commissioner of baseball, Brockmire is now sober. I mean, a lot of changes go down in this season. Was there a feeling of like, we got to get it all in now and let's do everything we kind of had, or was that always the plan?
It was always the plan to basically end the story the way we did. It was planned to be a 4-season, 8 episodes per season story arc. And Joel Church Cooper, our head writer, though, last year got the idea of fast forwarding that 10, 15 years in the future. So in other words, we always had the story idea in mind, but the idea of doing this little kind of sci-fi predictive, like what's life going to be like in 15 years, almost Black Mirror homage, was a new idea. Every year, Joel likes to switch it up. That's one of the cool things about the show is we figure out this great season, which is hard to do. Then I want to stay with that. I'm like, we figured out how to be funny and smart. Let's not mess with that. He's like, no, we got to switch it up. And every year the guy pulls it out of the hat. Like he doesn't rely on what we relied on the season before.
Was there a concern at all about, like you said, I think Brockmire being a booze bag drug addict was pretty funny for a lot of people. And then to pull the sobriety stuff was there like a worry about that? That's a pretty big.
I worried about it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not, the character's funny because he's wasted all the time,
Right.
And then even when we season 3, which we, I was sure it was our least funny, least good season because I felt much more boring shooting. I'm like, I'm the sober guy now. That's not fun, So for me, it was a little more tedious, but it was every year our reviews have gotten like better and better. Like every year people think this season's the best one. So it was our best reviewed season up to that point until season 4.
I don't know if you've seen Alan Sepinwall, who's kind of my TV guy. He's the editor of Rolling Stone's television.
I know Alan. I know he is very well. Yes.
This is his first season he's ever given at Rolling Stone 5 stars.
Believe me, I know. I was shocked by that. He was at the Television Critics Association thing in LA as we were introducing season 1 of the show. So nobody had seen it except critics. And he interviewed us and he was looking at me like I was crazy. He was like, what is this show? How did you guys figure this out? Like, where did it come from? What he was like, it took me 10 minutes to realize like this guy really loves this show. Cause he was like the first person I spoke to. I had no idea what the response to this thing would be. And I'm like, Alan Sepinwall really likes this for whatever it's worth. We must've done something right here.
Yeah. He's, as far as I think like my, demo is concerned, if you're on the internet and you're into blogs and social media, he is like the go-to guy. So 5 stars from him is that's about as good of a cosign as you can get as far as my generation is concerned.
It's so weird. If you guys ask me, like, because making this show was a big deal for me. I love it. It took me years to get it made. It took me years. It's like the 4th show I've tried to make. They've all sucked before this. I was so happy to make a good one. If you told me that we'd make a show this good and this funny, and we'd have a hard time getting people to watch it, I would have said, I don't think that's possible. But anything can happen in show business.
Does that drive you crazy when you see, maybe some other shows that you might not think are as clever and witty? That kills me as a viewer. Over the years, like Arrested Development getting canceled and shows of that ilk. As a viewer, I want to just punch the TV screen. I can't imagine when you are involved in it.
Dude, yes, it drives me crazy. And I already have to forget about Brockmire. I already have to avoid like getting in arguments or like when relatives come in, like, have you seen? I'm not going to insult the show, but whatever show that I consider is ridiculously stupid. I'm like, it's quite you should, as if they're giving me like, give it a chance. You're going to enjoy it. I'm like, Uncle Steve, that show's I can't decide which is dumber, you or that show. But those shows are huge hits, and I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
The way the show is going, it kind of reminds me a bit of Schitt's Creek, where the comedy, I feel like to me, comedies have always been, the characters never really changed that much. They're always, the episodes are always like kind of just in a box, and then the new episode happens next. Like Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of my favorite shows.
Me too. I love that show.
Basically, everything ends, and then the show just restarts next episode. But this one, Brockmire reminds me of what Schitt's Creek did, where it's kind of like the characters are actually growing and they're improving as people, which is a weird thing for me in comedy, but it works so well. Do you think that's like something cultural or societal that's happening right now, where it's like we want to see people improve?
I don't know about improve. I mean, on Brockmire, yes, the people are, for the most part, certainly Brockmire, whatever you want to, the term is grows a soul,
Right.
Goes from this incredible douchebag who couldn't care less about anybody to a giving, loving, woke person. But mostly important. To me, it was just narrative. It's like, or if you want to tell the opposite story of somebody going from a lovely, or you want to go like the Walter White route from Mr. Chips to, Scarface, as long as you tell me a good story, I'm down, so, and Joel Church Cooper was just brilliant at piecing that together.
Was there any shock on your end? Like when just episode 1 of this season, with all like the pandemic talk and the outbreak on that one scene for what's supposed to be Good Morning America. I mean, especially having been a part of The Simpsons before, where a lot of predictions always happen and you guys seem to, get the future. I was pretty wild to tune into that, and given all that's going on right now.
Yeah, maybe it's me. Maybe it's I'm the one constant in those two. Maybe I have some weird psychic, I'm like a Stephen King character or something. But shows I make tell the truth about the future. But no, that's a weird journey with that, because, like, again, Joel, he wants these big swings every year. I'm like, oh, dude, let's not mess with it that much. Come on, we only made 8 of last season. It's hard enough to figure out a formula that works. And he's like, no, I got it, and I fought it 3 or 4 times. Like, it took him like 3 or 4 conversations to convince me to like tell this dystopian future story while we're wrapping up the 4th season of Brockmire.
That's crazy to me that there's that, was it ever like a fight or an argument? Like, because it seems like something you'd have
to because I don't, as much as we have, because I've learned to trust him. Like, this guy's a great writer, not a good writer, a great writer. So I let him follow his muse. I don't interfere. But I did raise my hand a bunch on this one. Like, dude, are you sure? Do we need to like take that on? But the end of season 3, the very last episode is a very kind of, it's almost a bonus track episode. It's like a societal commentary that he threw in it. And I was a little nervous about that one, but that went so well that I was like, well, he writes that really well, so he probably knows what he's doing. And then sure enough, season 4, but I did push back on that just to make sure it was vetted, and he was sure. And then even within that, though, we don't have the budget to like go 12 years in the future convincingly, with the special effects or anything. So
the
holographic porn was pretty cool.
That we spent some money there.
I thought it was great because I think future shots are always too different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought this was perfect, where you have Limon, which is kind of the Alexa, a little taking over, a little predictive now, where it's not like a crazy different world.
Yeah, it's not going to be flying cars and all that shit.
Yes. The operating system that we call Limon, that's like an Alexa or a Siri, was obviously a very cheap way to just a plastic thing that can run your life.
Okay.
But you know what ended up happening? We actually ran into a problem. We had undersold the future. It's like, because we didn't have the money for it. We're like, we have to somehow reveal that we're in 12 years ahead and society's in bad shape. And as much as I hate to admit it, one of our executives at IFC, a guy named Pete Aronson, who's also a really good comedy guy, suggested this faux Today Show type opening where you just kind of download what's going on in that kind of chipper tone of like, horrible things are happening. But, we got Bryce Harper here to talk about cupcakes as well. And that's where we threw, just kind of randomly, was like, well, what are horrible things that are probably going to happen? Well, sure, heat, probably going to be too hot. And disputed lands, that's funny, where people are kind of, seceding from the union. And then, pandemics, that's likely. Right. That'll happen in 10 years. And that just was like a toss off idea. And then you watch the opening of the show, and it's a little too close to home.
Yeah, unfortunately, absolutely nailed it. I mean, I'm also hoping, though, that means that you nailed this Lamone holographic porn thing, because I'd be down. I'd give that a whirl.
Let's face it, we're all waiting for that day. You're probably not going to go with Ann Margaret sitting on your face.
But yeah, when you go to commercial and Lamone's like, resume sitting on the face. So it's just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's so, why don't people watch? God damn it.
I'm trying to use this time. I'm revamping my social media. I'm trying to get the word out. I'm seeing what I can do to get on that favorites page of Hulu.
I feel like a goddamn failure. I know that's what the point of these conversations are, and I'm trying to, every time we push it, we swear by it. We put our cosign on it. I'm like, just listen to us, please. God.
Look, I mean, in our culture today, some old white man obsessed with baseball is not exactly gonna. It's not in the zeitgeist, you know what I mean? It's not primed to explode.
Well, you know what we're gonna do this time? We'll this will be, if you got the baseball itch and you're missing baseball because it's not around now, go watch Brockmire. You'll get your baseball fix. Maybe that'll be the angle to take, because I think the one thing I am learning is no matter how much people say baseball's dying and it's fading out and no young people like it, without it this year, there's been a lot of moaning and a lot of crying, and so there are a shit ton of fans out there. So have you given any thought to some of these proposed ideas to get the game back up?
As maybe you've seen, we spend a lot of time in Brockmire discussing just that, because he's commissioner and we're trying to. So we really thought about it. Yeah, I am for robot umps personally. I don't know how much quicker it's going to make. I am. I don't love that tradition of figuring out an strike zone the first 3 innings, and then it's inconsistent by inning 8. And
yeah, I did always think that 50 or 100 years later when we do this, there's going to be people going, they just willingly got it wrong all the time. Like they liked that, they wanted it to be incorrect. But I don't know. I'm a little bit of an old fart when it comes to that, and the human element and all that shit. I don't know.
It strikes me as something that you want until you have it, and then you don't have. It's like when you call a customer service line and it's an automated machine, and you're like, I just need to get something off my chest. I don't even want the refund. I just want to yell at somebody a little bit, and I'll feel better afterwards. And that's what it is.
Yeah, like if I can't
you may be right.
or yell at an ump, and I know that the computer is 100% right, and it's just a fact that my team is not winning, what do I do then?
See, there's so much variable I find in sports and so much human element that if the stuff can be fair and quantified, that can be, I like that, and
I also think it ends up like when we added to baseball, when we added the instant replay, and then it's like if someone's foot comes off the bag, or like someone slides in the second and the hand bumps up, it's like, oh no, he was actually out. Like, that's not what we're talking about. That's not the spirit of the rule there. And I feel like robot umps won't understand the spirit of the game.
I agree with that. I don't like that you're off for a nanosecond and the glove remained on you thing. Yeah. I don't think that should be reviewable.
Can you say you can't make a rule being like, well, if you're off for a full second, like where do you draw the line? It's impossible. So I get it that it's either all or nothing, but it definitely is infuriating when you see that.
Well, on the other hand, though, right? I'm sure now players have to catch up to you can't slide like that.
Right.
So
game will change for sure.
Yeah, so they'll adjust. I mean,
the idea of the 7-inning games, the double headers, all of that. Would you, if everything was safe, would you sign up for that version of baseball this year right now?
I have to think about that, but just this year because we want to condense everything.
Yeah,
I would absolutely. I would sign up for. They're all going to just play in Arizona, and we get to watch 30 games. I mean, anything at this point, but. I'm not against. I wouldn't be against even ongoing the 7-inning thing and streamlining the game. You know why? Because I feel like post steroids, all the records have sort of gone to shit anyway.
True.
And it's like, let's just call that the old era of baseball, and let's just start a new one and make it more, young people friendly, viewer friendly, and I mean, when I go watch my buddies play softball, I'm pretty grateful it's just a 7-inning game. I mean,
you go watch your buddies play softball, Hank?
I mean, if not really, but if I'm walking through Central Park and I catch a game, I'm like, thank God this is over soon.
I've actually done that once. I've been on a date walking through Boston Common, and we stopped and watched a men's softball league. And guess what? It's a pretty fun date.
My son, we live right on Central Park, and my son and I are always strolling through, and it's really fun to watch a few innings.
How old is your son?
He'll be 11 in June.
What is is he allowed to watch Brockmire and some of the?
You can't watch Brockmire until he's 37 years old.
I was gonna say I don't think I'm allowed.
That's
to
the number I came up with. Yeah.
And so Brockmire, comes to an end, and obviously, Apu, you bowed out on that one. So I feel like you're maybe at a little bit of a point in your career where what's next is probably.
Well, I mean, Apu's one of 94 voices I do at the Simpsons, so
that's true. That's true.
Quite busy over there. I mean,
yeah.
But the spirit of your question is correct, much like the spirit of the replay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love time off. I've been getting more into producing, and so I'm developing a bunch of things that I'm hoping to get made, and some I might be in, some I might not. And yeah, as Brockmire said, the narrative of my life is complete. I just want to spend more time with my family.
And you're obviously doing a lot with Dream.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning it. Yes. I work with Dream in New York, which is used to be Harlem RBI, which is wonderful mentoring and tutoring nonprofit.
With that, you work with Manfred. Was there any communication with him about this season of Brockmire?
Oh yeah. I mean, last board meeting before, when we were all still allowed to be in each other's presence, I hit him with hey Rob, you need any advice or any help on the commissioner front? I think Brockmire's less beleaguered than you are.
I was going to say, he probably could use a little bit of advice and help right now. It's a rough go for him.
Speaking of the board meeting, how that scene, the Brockmire scene this season, when he's yelling at all the owners.
Yeah.
That was, I actually recently watched Mission Impossible Fallout, and me and my brother were talking about how tired Tom Cruise must have gotten on that final sprint. I think you must have been more tired. You're running around the room screaming in everyone's faces. How many takes did that take?
There was there was a bunch of scripted stuff. That's one of those. We usually stay scripted on Brockmire because we don't have a lot of time. But that was one where we did what was scripted, then also wrote a bunch, on the day just to have alternates, and then also it lent itself to just going nuts and seeing what came out of my mouth.
Yeah, or pissing on someone.
That was scripted, actually. Brockmire pulls his dick out and pisses on a guy. It was scripted.
Joel, you sick son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's what would you have gone? Like, part of me is angry that it's ending, but part of me also thinks so many shows fall victim to going a season or several seasons too long. Would there have been a 5, 6, 7, 8 for Brockmire? Part of me thinks that it's kind of nice as is,
We certainly told the story we wanted to tell, which was the plan from the beginning. I had an idea to for a 5th season, which was just a circling back, because I love playing the drunken, drugged out, sexed up Brockmire. So I wanted to circle back to his lost years in between his meltdown and when he got back to Morristown. Just in Southeast Asia, drunk out of his mind.
I feel like that's always still maybe on the table, though, right?
Possible. I think they would have done it. I just didn't want to go to Atlanta anymore to shoot because I have a family. I'm not kidding about the family thing. And so I said, I'll do that if you guys will shoot in New York, but they didn't want to pay for that. So, but maybe someday we might circle back to that ridiculousness.
Yeah, that'll always be,
I'm cooking up a Brockmire podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
How give me some color on that.
We're just still talking about it. We're having a creative call. Let me check the schedule. We're having a creative call about it today, in fact. But maybe just a half hour. Jim Brockmire probably ranting about sports of the day and the week, and
so
a celebrity guest
with.
Oh
Jim
yeah. Yeah, cool. Talking about because Joel and a couple other of our writers, a guy named Dave Thomason, they're really good at writing Brockmire insanity based on just what's actually going on. I can even hit you with some. I got some favorite. I like our Tom Brady takes.
Yes, please.
It would be stuff like this. Here, wait. Let me pull it up here. Okay. So Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I really believe that this is the year that the Buccaneers are coming back. Not the football team, though, fellas. The actual profession of Buccaneer. I think the economy is approaching a point where being a pirate is a very realistic career choice for many people. And at this point in time, other than that, I don't understand Brady's decision. I don't know if Florida is the place you want to be when society collapses. Because people were eating each other's faces down there when the restaurants were open. So stuff like that. Brockmire takes like that.
That is a very good idea. Very funny idea.
There's always,
so much that you can tackle with that.
Yeah, there's always sports to talk about, and then have a guest
on right now.
Well, yes, but even now, you can talk about Brady going to Florida.
Have you noticed anything different with? Do you often have like creative calls on Zooms or meetings like that? I feel like that's something you usually like to be in the room with.
Like all of us, I didn't know what Zoom, what the frick it was till 6 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and now I only do this. Yeah,
like you were talking about earlier with Joel, where he kind of had to sway you a bit with 4 meetings. I think he said about setting the season in the future. I feel like that wouldn't happen on a Zoom call. I think there's a little different tension, a little where you're like, you know what, fuck you, I'm not doing it. You need to be in the room and feel your passion.
Honestly, the spirit of that is correct. If that were season 1, where we're all nervous about what was going to work, it probably would have been right. At this point, it was more of a friendly, like, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, I just trust him. I know that past a certain point, if he wants to do it, I'm sure it'll come out fine. So it's tougher to have real personal disagreements through the Zoom. Have you not noticed that? You guys probably had some of your own, right?
Well, so we've been doing for the longest time, we were all in different cities, and so we did a lot of, it was Skype at the time instead of Zoom,
right?
And I always found that things were way more contentious because you'll say things over the computer that you might not say to someone's face. So when we started arguing, things would get personal and nasty real quick, because then you just close the laptop and that's it. I don't have to see you.
Right.
So when we all moved to New York and got together, I think things kind of toned down a little bit. And now that we're resuming the virtual stuff, it's like, fuck you, fuck that. Everyone.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. We're horrible to each other over the computer.
That's see, my generation, we were just polite all the time. We didn't, I don't have a text persona versus my Zoom persona versus my Instagram persona.
We actually,
do you think that the people at Zoom are secretly like, this is pretty great? Like you mentioned the finding the one person who's into all this. I bet you the Zoom people are like throwing parties over the quarantine.
Zoom, Purell, there's a few folks, right?
Just picked it up.
Yeah. Who are pretty psyched. And Zoom got themselves in trouble with their lack of security. I guess they've shored that up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, nobody else has a choice, so even if they didn't, who knows? Listen, it's been an awesome ride. I do hope that there's more Brockmire in the form of the podcast or the Lost Years, because he is a unbelievable character. Where would you rank him out of all your voices and characters? I think he's pretty high at the top, but where would you put him?
He's my personal favorite.
Is he?
People might say like my character from the Birdcage might top it because it stood the test of time. I guess that was like 25 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue with how iconic the Simpsons characters are, like Moe and Chief Wiggum. I don't do Apu anymore, but I'm sure somebody will continue to do Apu someday. And so they could pick up that mantle. But yeah, say Simpsons voices collectively might challenge it. But I love Brockmire. It's really close to my heart.
I think he's number one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I agree. I hope for more to come, and we appreciate all the time you've given us over the years to promote him. And I wish we could have done a better job. Maybe we can knock it out of the park this season for you, because people deserve to see it. And thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, it's your guys' fault. I'm going to blame you guys.
They yank.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.